Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Well, today we're tackling economic systems.
Ooh, a big one.
Yeah, no kidding. We've got a ton of reports and data to sort through.
The forces that shape, like, literally everything.
Exactly. Our world, our wallets, even our, futures.
It's all connected.
Okay, so let's start with the global economy.
Big picture stuff.
Right, what's the current state of things?
Yeah.
'Cause from what I've been reading, it feels kind of shaky,
Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag. I mean, the global economy is technically recovering.
After COVID.
Yeah, after the whole COVID-19 pandemic thing. But it's facing some serious headwinds. Like, inflation is a major concern.
Yeah, inflation is a beast.
It really is. As of 2023, the global average was 6.5%.
So things are getting more expensive everywhere.
Pretty much, yeah, worldwide.
Ouch. I feel it every time I go to the grocery store.
I know, right?
So how are policymakers trying to deal with this whole inflation thing?
Well, central banks around the world are doing this thing where they raise interest rates.
Makes borrowing more expensive.
Exactly. And the idea is that if people and businesses have to pay more to borrow money, they'll spend less.
Which should cool down the economy.
Yeah. And hopefully bring inflation under control.
So it's kind of like
I
a
get-
balancing act?
Yes. Trying to, tame inflation without...
Crashing the whole economy.
Exactly. But what does this actually mean for everyday people?
Well, think about it like this. Let's say the Bank of England,
Okay.
they raise interest rates by, let's say, 0.5%, right? Which they have been doing.
Yeah.
That could mean your mortgage payments in the UK go up about hundreds of pounds every month.
Wow.
That's a real
That
impact
direct impact.
that people feel directly.
Yeah, no, that's a really good example and makes it so much clearer, how these big global trends
Trickle down.
into our daily lives.
It's all connected.
It is. And it's not just interest rates, right? We've also got all these changes happening with globalization and supply chains. What's going on there? Oh, yeah, that's another big piece of this whole puzzle.
It is.
The pandemic really showed us how fragile these global supply chains are.
Oh, yeah. All those shortages.
Exactly. We couldn't get anything.
Right.
And so this kind of triggered a wave of protectionist policies in some countries.
Protectionist.
Yeah. So, think of it this way. If a country puts, extra taxes on goods that are imported,
Okay.
their own products seem cheaper.
Oh, I see.
And they're hoping this will boost their local industries.
So less reliance on global trade and more.
Focus on domestic production.
Got it. It's like a whole system shift.
It is. It's a big shift.
But how are developing economies doing in all of this? It seems like they often get hit the hardest by these global, shocks.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Developing economies tend to be more vulnerable to all the ups and downs in the global markets.
Right.
And the current uncertainty, combined with these rising interest rates, makes it a lot harder for them to attract investment.
And manage their debt, I bet.
Exactly. It's a big concern.
Yeah. And this all seems to tie into another big issue we've been hearing a lot about, economic inequality. It feels like the gap between the rich and poor is just getting wider and wider.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the data backs that up.
It does.
Yeah, it's pretty stark. In 2022, the richest 1% of the world's population, they own 43% of all the wealth.
Wow.
And that's more than the bottom 50% combined.
That's crazy. That's a huge amount of wealth concentrated in such a small group of people.
It is. It's a staggering statistic.
So what's causing this? Why is this gap widening? Is it all about technology, like some people say?
Well, technology definitely plays a part. Automation and the rise of artificial intelligence, they create new opportunities for some people, but
They also displace workers.
yeah, in certain sectors.
Yeah.
So basically, those who are digitally connected, and have the right skills, they're thriving.
But others are falling behind.
Exactly. And this creates what we call a digital divide.
Oh, right. I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it has really serious consequences for societies.
Yeah. It's like technology is this amazing tool,
It has so much potential.
but it can also make these inequalities worse.
Yeah, if we're not careful.
And this brings us to another big topic, jobs.
Hmm.
With all this talk about automation and the changing nature of work, are robots actually going to take our jobs?
Well, I wouldn't say it's quite that dramatic, like robots taking over the world.
Okay.
But the nature of work is definitely changing, that's for sure.
How so?
Well, we're seeing things like the rise of the gig economy.
Right. More freelancers and contractors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remote work is becoming more and more common.
Working from home.
Yep. And there's a growing emphasis on continuous learning and upskilling.
So you constantly have to be learning new skills.
Yeah, like the skills that were super valuable 5 years ago might be completely obsolete today.
So you got to stay adaptable.
Adaptability is key.
Lifelong learning. It's not just a buzzword anymore.
Nope, it's essential.
So what advice would you give to people who are in industries that are, being disrupted by all this automation?
It's tough, but it's about recognizing these trends, and preparing yourself.
Preparing for the future.
Yeah. So think about what skills will be in demand in the future.
Okay, like what?
Things like data analysis, problem solving, creativity, and being able to work effectively in teams. Stuff that robots can't do very well.
Right.
Robots aren't great at being creative yet.
Not yet, at least. So it's about focusing on those uniquely human skills.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. So we've got this recovering global economy, but it's facing inflation and trade shifts and these evolving labor markets. And then on top of all of that, there's this massive issue of global debt.
Ah, yes, the elephant in the room.
It is.
The debt dilemma. It's a big worry.
It is.
Governments are piling on debt.
Businesses, too.
Yeah, businesses, individuals, everyone.
Like there's no tomorrow.
Exactly. And the world is basically mortgaging its future to deal with all these crises happening right now.
And that's not sustainable.
It's not. Not in the long run.
So what happens when all those bills come due? What are the consequences of all this debt?
Well, the biggest risk is financial instability. If debt levels get too high, it can lead to a loss of confidence.
In the markets.
Yeah, in financial markets.
Okay.
And then investors start pulling back.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and borrowing costs skyrocket. It's like this house of cards.
And it can all come crashing down.
Exactly.
And if that happens,
Well, then you've got reduced investment, economic slowdown, job losses, maybe even political instability.
that's a pretty scary scenario.
It is. It's a real concern.
So are there any solutions? Like, can we turn this around?
There are no easy answers, but there are some strategies that can help. One is responsible debt management.
So governments need to be more careful about their spending.
Exactly. They need to prioritize long-term sustainability over those short-term gains.
Right. It's about thinking ahead.
And finding ways to reduce those budget deficits.
Okay, so it's about making those tough choices and enacting reforms.
Yeah, structural reforms.
But it can't just be about cutting spending, right?
No, you're right.
We also need to invest.
Exactly. We need to make sure investments are going towards things that will create long-term economic growth.
And that's where addressing economic inequality comes in, right?
Exactly. We need policies that promote inclusive growth and create opportunities for everyone.
So everyone benefits.
Yeah, not just those at the top. We need to make sure the benefits of economic progress are shared more fairly.
So creating a system that works for everyone,
That's the goal.
that's a powerful idea, but it's also a huge challenge.
It is a huge challenge.
It feels like we're facing all these interconnected problems.
They are connected.
And it's hard to even know where to begin.
I understand that feeling. It can be overwhelming, but the key is to start somewhere,
Just take action.
Yeah, even if it's a small step.
Every little bit helps.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone in this. People all over the world are working on solutions.
Good to hear.
Yeah, collective action is what will ultimately make a difference.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. The global economy, inflation, trade, jobs, debt, and inequality. It's a lot to process, but I think we've laid a good foundation for understanding some of the big economic forces that are shaping our world.
I think so too. And hopefully this has given you some things to think about.
It definitely has.
As you come across economic news in your everyday life,
Right.
ask yourself how it fits into the bigger picture. What are the implications for me, for my community, for the world?
Those are good questions.
Yeah. Staying informed is the first step towards navigating all these complex systems.
And building a better future.
Exactly.
Well said. Okay, but before we get too deep into the future, let's take a closer look at some of the other forces shaping our world. Things like population trends, demographics, and social changes. That's all coming up in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned.
Looking forward to it. These are all pieces of the same puzzle, and understanding how they fit together is crucial for understanding the world we live in.
Couldn't agree more.
It's interesting, right? All those economic forces we were just talking about,
Yeah.
they're happening against the backdrop of all these major social and demographic shifts.
Okay, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear more about that. What kind of trends are we talking about here?
Well, one of the biggest is population growth. The world is getting more and more crowded.
Yeah, for sure.
Although the rate of growth has actually slowed down a bit from previous decades, but as of 2023, there were about 8 billion people on the planet.
8 billion. Wow. That's a lot of people. It makes you wonder how we're going to provide for everyone,
Yeah.
especially with resources already feeling pretty stretched.
Yeah, no, that's a crucial point. Making sure we have enough food, water, energy for this growing population. It's a huge challenge. But, it's not all doom and gloom.
Oh, okay, good.
A larger population also means a larger workforce,
Right.
more consumers, more brain power to come up with innovations.
Yeah, that's true. More people to solve problems.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, managing the challenges while also, harnessing the potential.
Right, right. So more mouths to feed, but also more hands to build and create.
Exactly. I like that.
I've also been hearing a lot about aging populations
Yeah.
in some parts of the world
Definitely.
and like a youth bulge in others.
Right. A youth bulge.
How does that play into all of this?
It's a fascinating demographic shift, really. Like, if you look at countries like Japan, Germany, Italy,
Uh-huh.
they have a rapidly aging population,
Yeah.
which puts a lot of pressure on their healthcare systems, pensions, the overall economy.
Right, they need more support.
Exactly. They need to make adjustments to their social safety nets and economic policies to deal with that.
So they're dealing with the challenges of supporting an older population, while other countries are dealing with the opposite, a surge in young people.
Exactly. You've got it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, many developing nations have a large proportion of young people entering the workforce now, which could be huge for economic growth if they can provide education, job training, opportunities.
Right, if they can harness that energy.
Yeah, but if they can't, it could lead to social unrest and instability.
Oh, right. So it's kind of a critical window.
It really is a critical window of opportunity.
And on top of all that, we've also got migration, which seems to be increasing globally.
Yeah, it's a complex issue with many factors driving it.
Like what? What are the main drivers?
Well, economic opportunity is a big one. People move from areas with limited prospects to places with better job markets, higher wages.
Trying to find a better life.
Exactly. It's a classic story.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I know there's also been a surge in displacement because of conflict and violence.
Unfortunately, yes. It's a tragic reality.
It is.
Millions of people have been forced from their homes because of wars, persecution, human rights abuses.
Yeah, those images are heartbreaking. The refugee crisis.
It's a global crisis, and it puts immense strain on resources.
And can create political tension too, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. It's a complex issue.
So migration is this mix of people seeking opportunities and people fleeing hardship.
Yeah, it's both.
What are the implications for the countries involved?
Well, for the sending countries, it can sometimes lead to what we call a brain drain
Oh, right.
when skilled workers leave.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, the money that migrants send back home, those remittances, they can be a really significant source of income.
Interesting. So it's kind of a mixed bag economically.
It is a lot of different factors at play.
What about for the receiving countries?
For them, migration can provide much needed labor, especially in sectors where there are worker shortages.
Right.
Like, think about aging populations and the need for healthcare workers, for example,
Yeah, or agriculture
or construction, yeah. But it can also lead to social and cultural tensions,
Yeah.
if integration isn't handled well,
Right. So it's important
to make sure everyone feels welcome and included.
to promote inclusion.
Exactly. Make it work for everyone.
Another trend I've been thinking about is urbanization. It seems like there's this massive movement of people.
From rural areas to cities.
Exactly. What's driving that shift?
It's all about opportunity. Cities are often centers of innovation, industry, commerce.
They have more jobs.
Yeah. And usually higher wages, too. As technology and globalization connect the world even more, cities become even more attractive as these hubs of activity.
It's like everyone's flocking to the cities.
Kind of, yeah. We're seeing the emergence of these megacities with populations exceeding 10 million people.
10 million. Like Tokyo, Delhi, Shanghai.
Exactly. Huge, sprawling cities.
That's mind-boggling. And what kind of challenges come with that kind of urban growth?
Well, infrastructure is a major one. Cities have to provide housing, transportation, sanitation, all those basic services for all these people.
Right.
And if they can't keep up, it leads to overcrowding, traffic congestion, environmental problems, maybe even social unrest.
That makes sense. That's where the concept of smart cities comes in.
Exactly. You're on it.
I've heard that term, but I'm not totally sure I get what it means.
Yeah, so smart cities are all about using technology and data to make things run more efficiently
Okay.
and to improve sustainability and quality of life.
Give me an example.
Sure, think sensors, data analytics, connected devices,
Okay.
managing traffic flow, making sure energy is being used efficiently, improving waste management, enhancing public safety, things like that.
So using technology to make cities more livable and sustainable.
Precisely. But it's not just about the technology itself. It's also about social inclusion, getting citizens involved, and promoting economic development.
Right. A holistic approach.
Exactly. Places like Singapore, Copenhagen, Amsterdam, Barcelona are often seen as leaders in this area.
So they're really paving the way.
They are. They're doing some amazing things.
It's fascinating to see how cities are adapting and innovating to face all these challenges. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Population growth, aging populations, youth bulges, migration, urbanization. These trends are definitely changing our world. But there's another piece I want to touch on, education. It seems more important than ever.
Oh, absolutely. Education is the foundation for, everything. Individual progress, societal progress.
Gives people the tools they need.
Exactly. The knowledge and skills they need to thrive in this rapidly changing world, especially as technology keeps advancing and the nature of work evolves.
So how's education doing globally? Are we making progress?
We've actually made significant progress in expanding access to education over the past few decades.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, globally, more children are enrolled in primary school than ever before.
That's great.
But millions of children, particularly in developing countries, still lack access to basic education.
Because of poverty and...
Yeah, poverty, gender inequality, conflict, a lot of obstacles.
It's a reminder that there's still a lot of work to do to ensure everyone has that opportunity to learn and grow.
Absolutely. And even for those who do have access, the quality of education can vary a lot.
Right. It's not just about getting kids in school.
No, it's about making sure they're getting a quality education that actually prepares them for the future.
So that means investing in
good teachers, developing relevant curricula, creating supportive learning environments, all of that.
What about technology? It seems like it could totally revolutionize how we learn.
Oh, for sure. Technology has huge potential. It can provide access to information, personalized learning experiences, and all these innovative teaching methods. Think about online learning platforms, educational apps, interactive tools.
Right, things that make learning more engaging.
Exactly, more engaging and accessible.
But I imagine the digital divide is still a big problem here.
Unfortunately, yes. Not all students have equal access to technology and the internet, which can make those inequalities even worse. Bridging that digital divide is crucial.
To make sure everyone benefits.
Yeah, to ensure that everyone can benefit from the transformative potential of technology in education.
It seems like every issue we talk about has these layers of complexity, these challenges that are all connected.
They are. It's a complex web.
We've talked about education, but what about health? What are some of the major trends there?
Well, over the past century, we've seen incredible improvements in global health. Life expectancy has increased, child mortality rates have gone down, and we've made progress in combating a lot of infectious diseases.
That's amazing progress.
It is, but significant challenges remain.
So what are some of the biggest health issues the world is facing today?
Well, one major challenge is the rise of non-communicable diseases, or NCDs for short.
NCDs.
Yeah, things like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, respiratory diseases.
Those are serious conditions.
They are. They're often chronic and linked to lifestyle factors. And as populations age and lifestyles become more sedentary,
Meaning less active.
right, less active, the prevalence of these NCDs is going up.
So it's not just about fighting infectious diseases anymore.
Nope. It's a whole new set of challenges.
Related to how we live and how we age.
Right, exactly.
And then there's still the threat of infectious diseases.
Oh, yeah. That's never going away completely.
Like COVID.
Yeah, the COVID-19 pandemic really showed us how quickly a new virus can spread and cause major disruptions.
It was a wake-up call for sure.
It was. And then we also have drug-resistant bacteria, new viruses emerging, and even diseases like measles making a comeback in some areas because of declining vaccination rates.
It's like we're constantly battling these evolving health threats.
We are. It's a never-ending race.
And this really highlights the importance of public health.
Absolutely. Public health measures are essential for prevention.
And global cooperation is crucial for responding to outbreaks.
Couldn't agree more. We're all in this together.
We are, and we can't forget about climate change and how it impacts global health.
That's a really important connection.
I haven't really thought about that much. How does climate change affect our health?
In many ways, like rising temperatures lead to more frequent and intense heat waves, which can be really dangerous.
Especially for vulnerable populations.
Yeah. And the changes in weather patterns can increase the spread of infectious diseases.
Oh, yeah.
Those carried by insects like mosquitoes. And then you've got extreme weather events like floods and droughts, which can displace people and disrupt healthcare services.
So many cascading effects.
It's all interconnected.
We're dealing with the rise of NCDs, the ongoing threat of infectious diseases, and then the impact of climate change on health.
It's a lot.
It is. But are there any reasons to be hopeful? Are there any bright spots in all of this?
Absolutely. We're seeing amazing advancements in medical technology all the time.
Like new treatments and vaccines.
Yeah. And diagnostic tools are getting better, too. And we can't forget about public health initiatives, programs that promote healthy lifestyles, improve sanitation, expand access to healthcare.
Right. It's all important.
It is. It's a multi-pronged approach.
We need those medical advancements, those public health systems, and individuals making healthy choices.
Exactly. But even with all those efforts, there's one issue that seems to underlie so many of these challenges.
Okay.
Social inequality.
Right. It affects everything.
It does. It cuts across all societies, impacting people's lives and opportunities in such profound ways.
It's about unequal access to resources, to opportunities.
Yeah, to education, healthcare, economic resources, even basic rights and freedoms.
It's unfair, and it holds back whole societies.
It does. And these inequalities are often deeply entrenched.
Because of historical injustices?
Yeah, historical injustices, systemic discrimination, unequal power structures.
Addressing that requires a huge effort.
It does. It requires a multifaceted approach to really tackle those root causes.
And promote justice and inclusion.
Exactly. It's not just a moral imperative.
It's an economic one, too.
Right. Inequality stifles economic growth. It creates social unrest. It undermines the well-being of everyone.
So creating a more just and equitable world, it benefits everyone.
Exactly. It's in everyone's best interest.
That's a powerful message to keep in mind as we continue to explore all these challenges.
I agree. And speaking of challenges, let's turn our attention to one that looms large over all of us, the state of our planet itself.
The environment.
Yeah. The environment is facing some unprecedented challenges right now.
You're talking about climate change.
That's a big one. It's hard to escape all the news about the climate crisis.
It feels like a defining issue of our time.
It is. The Earth's climate is changing at an alarming rate. Yeah. And a lot of it is due to human activities.
Like burning fossil fuels.
Yeah, burning fossil fuels, deforestation, industrial agriculture, all these things release greenhouse gases, which trap heat and cause the planet to warm up.
Leading to all sorts of consequences.
Exactly. We're seeing rising temperatures globally, melting glaciers, rising sea levels, more extreme weather events, all of it.
That's already happening.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's affecting everything. Ecosystems, human health, the global economy. We need to act urgently.
So what are the strategies for mitigating this crisis?
One of the most important is reducing our reliance on fossil fuels.
Moving away from oil and gas.
Exactly. And transitioning to cleaner energy sources. Things like solar, wind, geothermal.
Renewable energy.
Yep. And the good news is the cost of renewable energy has been dropping a lot in recent years.
Making it more competitive.
Yes.
Yeah.
More competitive with those fossil fuels.
So it's becoming more practical to switch to cleaner energy.
Exactly. And a lot of countries are setting really ambitious targets for renewable energy adoption.
I've heard about Denmark and Costa Rica getting almost all their electricity from renewables.
They're doing amazing things, showing the world that it's possible.
It's really inspiring. What about innovations in transportation? Seems like that's another big area.
It is. And there's a lot happening there, too. Electric vehicles are becoming more and more common, more affordable.
I see more of them on the road all the time.
Yeah, they're everywhere now. The technology is constantly getting better, longer ranges, better performance.
Right.
And beyond personal vehicles, cities are investing in public transportation.
Like trains and buses.
Yeah, things like high-speed rail and bus rapid transit to reduce congestion and emissions.
So creating more sustainable ways to get around.
Exactly. And there's this whole movement toward what they call active transportation.
Active transportation.
Yeah, encouraging people to walk, bike, or use other human-powered ways to get around.
So it's healthier for people and the planet.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
Okay, let's shift gears to sustainable agriculture. How do we feed everyone while minimizing our environmental impact?
It's a big question. One promising approach is precision agriculture.
Precision agriculture.
Yeah, so it's basically using technology to farm smarter.
Okay.
Precision agriculture uses sensors, drones, data analytics to optimize crop yields.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and to reduce waste and minimize the use of fertilizers and pesticides.
So getting more from our farmland, but with less of an impact.
Exactly. Another innovation that's gaining traction is vertical farming.
Oh, farms that are like skyscrapers.
Yeah, those. They grow crops indoors in stacked layers using these controlled environments.
So you don't need as much land or water.
Exactly, and it reduces the need for pesticides, too.
So it's more efficient and sustainable.
Exactly. And then we can't forget about food waste.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge problem.
It is. A shocking amount of food produced globally ends up wasted.
While people are going hungry.
I know, it's crazy. But we can definitely do better. We need to improve our food storage, transportation, distribution systems.
To make sure it gets to the people who need it.
Exactly. And we can all do our part by being more mindful of what we buy and how much we throw away.
Reduce our own waste.
Yeah, every little bit helps.
So in addition to all these technological innovations,
we've also got this growing focus on what are called nature-based solutions.
Nature-based solutions.
Yeah, it's basically about working with nature, not against it.
Okay.
These solutions harness the power of natural processes to address environmental problems.
Give me an example.
Sure. Reforestation is a great one. Planting trees absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, helps fight climate change, and helps restore ecosystems.
It's like undoing the damage.
In a way, yeah. Another example is restoring wetlands.
Wetlands are important, right?
Oh, they're vital. They act as natural sponges, they absorb excess water, they filter pollutants, and they provide a home for all sorts of species.
Right. So restoring wetlands can help with flooding, water quality, biodiversity.
All of that. Nature-based solutions offer this win-win approach. They address environmental challenges while also providing social and economic benefits.
It's recognizing that nature already has a lot of the answers.
Exactly. Now, as we start to wrap up, I really want to emphasize the importance of collective action.
What do you mean by that?
Well, these global challenges require global solutions, right?
Right.
We need individuals, communities, governments, businesses, international organizations all working together.
It's about everyone stepping up.
It is. The Paris Agreement on Climate Change is a good example of this kind of international cooperation.
Where countries pledge to reduce emissions.
Yeah. And there are lots of other global initiatives focused on things like protecting biodiversity and promoting sustainable development goals.
It's inspiring to see people from all over the world coming together like that.
It is. It gives me hope that we can create a better future.
For everyone.
For everyone. For ourselves and for future generations.
I like that. So as we shift to the last part of our deep dive, I think the big takeaway is that the challenges are huge, but the solutions are out there.
We can do this.
Yeah. And progress is being made.
We have the knowledge, the technology, and the will to make a difference. It's about being innovative, working together, and taking responsibility for our planet and each other.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back to talk about some of the potential solutions and strategies that can help us build a more sustainable and equitable future.
Sounds good. I'm excited to dive into that.
Okay, so we've talked about some pretty heavy stuff like, climate change, biodiversity loss, water scarcity, all that.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, and some of it can be pretty overwhelming to think about.
It can.
But I think it's important to remember that there are a lot of really smart people out there who are working on these problems.
Right, it's not all doom and gloom.
Exactly. There's a whole movement happening, this drive towards finding solutions and building a better future.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. A more sustainable future, a more equitable future.
I'd love to learn more about those solutions, those positive things that are happening.
Well, one area where we're seeing a ton of innovation is renewable energy technologies.
Oh, like solar panels, wind turbines, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And the cost of renewable energy has come down so much in recent years.
Really?
Yeah, like dramatically.
Yeah.
So it's becoming more and more competitive with fossil fuels.
So it's actually becoming more practical.
It is, yeah. It's more practical and it's more affordable to make the switch.
That's great. Are countries actually adopting these cleaner sources?
They are, yeah. Many countries are setting some pretty ambitious targets for renewable energy.
I've heard about places like Denmark and Costa Rica getting a huge chunk of their energy from renewables.
Yeah, they're definitely pioneers in this area. They're showing the world that it's possible to power an economy with clean energy.
It's pretty amazing. What about transportation? That feels like another big area where we need change.
It is, and there's a lot happening there too, like electric vehicles, for example.
Yeah, EVs. I'm seeing so many more on the road now.
I know, right? They're becoming more mainstream, more affordable. And the technology keeps improving, the ranges are getting longer, the performance is better. And it's not just personal vehicles, you know. Cities are investing in public transportation systems like high-speed rail and bus rapid transit.
Now that's smart.
Yeah, it's all about reducing congestion and emissions, making it easier and more efficient for people to get around.
Both within cities and between cities.
Exactly. And there's also this movement towards what they call active transportation, encouraging people to walk or bike or use other human-powered ways to get around.
So it's healthier for people and the planet.
It is, yeah. It's all connected. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about sustainable agriculture.
How do we feed a growing population without destroying the environment?
That's the big question, right? One promising approach is something called precision agriculture.
Precision agriculture, what's that?
It's basically using technology to farm smarter.
Okay.
So they're using sensors, drones, data analytics, to figure out how to optimize crop yields, reduce waste, and minimize the use of fertilizers and pesticides.
So it's like getting more out of the land, but with less of an impact.
Exactly. And then there's another innovation that's gaining traction. It's called vertical farming.
Oh, yeah, those skyscraper farms.
Those are the ones. They grow crops indoors in these vertical layers in controlled environments.
You don't need as much land.
Exactly. And you don't need as much water either, and you can really cut down on pesticide use.
So it's more efficient and more sustainable.
It is, yeah, especially in urban areas where land is scarce. And then we can't forget about food waste.
Right. Reducing food waste is huge.
It's massive. A shocking amount of the food that's produced globally ends up in the trash.
It's crazy to think about.
It really is, especially when you think about all the people who are struggling with hunger.
So what can we do about that?
Well, we need to improve our food storage and transportation and distribution systems.
To make sure food gets to the people who need it.
Exactly. And we can all be more mindful, when we're shopping and cooking. Just think about how much we're actually using and how much we're throwing away.
Right. Reduce our own food waste.
Exactly. So we've talked about these technological innovations, but there's also this growing emphasis on what are called nature-based solutions.
Yeah. What does that mean?
It's basically working with nature, letting nature help us solve these problems.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Reforestation. Planting trees absorbs carbon dioxide, helps mitigate climate change, restores ecosystems.
It's like taking a step back and letting nature do its thing.
Kind of, yeah. Another example is restoring wetlands.
Wetlands are important, right?
They are. They're like natural sponges. They absorb excess water. They filter pollutants. They provide habitat for so many species.
Oh, wow. So restoring wetlands can help with flooding, with water quality, with biodiversity.
It's a multifaceted solution, and I think that's what's so great about these nature-based solutions. They address environmental challenges, but they also provide social and economic benefits.
That's a win-win.
It is. Okay, as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to emphasize one more thing.
What's that?
Collective action.
Okay, so what does that mean?
It means working together. Global challenges require global solutions, right?
Right.
So we need individuals, communities, governments, businesses, international organizations, everyone working together to build a more sustainable future.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Exactly. We're all interconnected. And we've seen some great examples of this kind of cooperation, like the Paris Agreement on climate change.
We're a country's committed to reducing their emissions.
Right. And there are lots of other initiatives out there focused on sustainability. It's really inspiring to see people coming together like that.
It is. It gives me hope for the future.
Me too. Me too. It shows that we have the potential, we have the knowledge, we have the technology, and we have the will to make a difference.
And it's not just about governments and big organizations, right? Individuals can make a difference too.
Absolutely. Every little bit counts. It starts with staying informed and engaged.
Learning about the issues, making conscious choices in our daily lives.
Exactly. The more we understand the challenges, the better equipped we are to be part of the solution.
So it's about taking action, both individually and collectively.
That's it. That's the key takeaway. We all have a role to play in creating a more sustainable and equitable future.
Well said. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the state of our world.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep learning. Together, we can make a difference.